students. So now we'll be starting with the cluster analysis. So cluster analysis is used in automatic deduction of identification of your okay. So automatic identification of natural groupings of things. Okay. So you can group different types of instances of data on a plot. Okay. So depending on the nature or likeliness of the nature of the objects. Okay, so it is also known as a segmentation technique. So in this technique, data instances that are similar to each other are categorized into one particular cluster. Okay, so you are having like if you are having group of items plotted on a graph. Okay, so according to similarities, you are trying to group into one particular cluster. Okay, so similarly, data instances. Okay, so are very different. Okay, so or maybe like one instance in one particular group is very different from the other instance in the other particular group. Okay, so but the objects in the same group, okay, so are similar to each other. Okay, so clustering is unsupervised learning technique. Okay, so where we normally don't have a dependent variable, so that is your target variable. So clustering is an unsupervised learning technique. So as there is no output or dependent variable for which a right or wrong answer can be computed. Okay, so like in supervised learning and all we have seen. Okay, so like classification techniques or regression problems and all, so where we always were interested in finding out the target value. Okay, so if new instance of data is given, we want to know, okay, where we were actually doing the predictions. Okay, so what will be your target value or your dependent value. Okay, but in this case, okay, so we don't, there is no output or dependent variable, so it is called as a unsupervised learning. So where we don't have a target variable, so for which we are going to judge it is right or wrong. Okay, so what we do is only try to group the items according to the similarities. Okay, so clustering techniques can only suggest to the user how many clusters would make sense from the characteristics of a data. Okay, so if you are having some bulk of data or volume of data, okay, how can you divide that based on the characteristics of your data. Okay, so when you divide that, so it should make a sense that any particular group or a cluster of data is obeying some kind of your rules or regulation, or it is having some kind of your characteristics in it. Okay, so that may help you in taking a decisions. Okay, so the cluster analysis technique will then define many different clusters or a distinct cluster. Okay, so from analysis of your data, so with the cluster definition for each of these clusters, so each cluster will be defining its own theory. Okay, so it will be having its own characteristics and all. So depending on those characteristics, certain items come and fall into one cluster and certain items fall into the another cluster. Okay, so likewise, so here, so it is clear that clustering is a unsupervised learning technique. Okay, so like take an example. So we are going to have a insurance company. Okay, so distributes its personal and small commercial insurance products to the independent agents. They wanted to increase the scale by understanding the customers. Okay, so they were interested in increasing the market share by doing some direct marketing campaign. Okay, so they gathered the attitudinal, behavioral and demographic data, so graphical kind of data, how the customers are staying, where they are staying. So using a mail survey of 2000, okay, so US households that own a auto insurance. Okay, so cluster analysis of the data revealed 5 roughly equal segments. Okay, so non-traditional, direct buyers, budget conscious, agent loyals and hassle free. Okay, so that means they were having some kind of common characters. So one cluster, a group where people were non-traditional, some were direct buyers, they don't want some agents and all, some were very conscious about the budget. Okay, so some were agent loyals and some were hassle free. Okay, anything they would be opting off. Okay, so from the questionnaires, they prepared the questionnaires of the survey and they collected data. So from that data, they tried to categorize the customers. Okay, so that is clustering speaks. Okay, so like we are not focusing on a target label, we are just trying to group the things. Okay, so cluster analysis can be used in almost every field where there is a large variety of transaction. Okay, so it is helping us to characterize, define and label for population. So that means we are not having single target label, so we just try to segregate the groups, and for a particular group we are trying to label that, okay, according to the population, so the nature of characteristics of that particular group. So it can help identify natural groupings of customers, okay, so products, patients, and so on. So it can also help identify outliers in a specific domain, and okay, so and thus decreases size and complexity of a problem. Okay, so it is helping us to identify the outliers. Okay, so sometimes what happens, okay, some of instance of data when we try to plot on a graph, okay, so it is neither belonging to any of your cluster, it will be somewhere there, okay, so somewhere on the graph. So those things are, you are calling it as a outlier. So that means that kind of the nature of the characteristics of data is such that it may neither belong to any particular group. Okay, so that may be actually coming or in the same kind of your survey, but the characteristics is very different from the characteristics existing in the objects of the clusters. Okay, so those kind of thing we are calling it as a outlier. Okay, a prominent business application of the cluster analysis is in the market research. Okay, so we the main theme of doing the cluster analysis is, okay, to have a market research. Okay, so to study the tendency in the market. Okay, so what kind of marketing thing is going on. Okay, how to analyze a market, how to catch hold of a market. Okay, so how to win the market, how to make a lot of profits in the market. Okay, so customers are segmented into clusters based on the characteristics, okay, wants and needs, so geography, price sensitivity, and so on. Okay, so like this, okay, so we are trying to make the divide the cluster. So examples of clustering includes, okay, so you have market segmentation. Okay, so you are categorizing the customers according to the similarities. Okay, so for instance, by the common wants and needs. Okay, what people want, what they need. Okay, so how are the mode of payments. Okay, so what kind of target, which kind of customers you are trying to target in the market. So this is market segmentation is one application of cluster. Then product portfolio. So people of similar sizes can be grouped together to make small, medium, and large size of clothing items. Okay, so product portfolio means it will help you to segregate the your items, product items. Okay, so whenever we are having a clothing shop, okay, so we try to cluster out. Okay, so small size, XL size, double XL size. Okay, so you are trying to create a cluster. So small size, all the items will be of, okay, suppose if you take that, okay, if you are creating one particular item you have made, okay, so some clothes or t-shirts like that. Okay, so you may categorize small. Okay, so like from one particular age to other age, like you may be taking to 6 to 10, okay, or 6 to 11 one category. Okay, and then from 11 to again 16 some category. Okay, so like that, or depending on the size, you may have a normal size, you may have a small size, you may have a large size, like a double XL size. So you are trying to create a product portfolio, so which will help you easily segregate the items. So when you segregate the items, it will be easy for you to search, and even the people also easily can pick the items, okay, according to their needs. Okay, and your your business also will run. Okay, so easily, so people will search, no confusions will be there. Okay, and your business will also click. So like that, we also have a text mining. So clustering can help organize a given collection of text documents according to the content similarities into clusters of related topics. So we can have a collection of text documents according to the contents. Okay, so this you can help you to analyze, okay, in a social media, if you are just putting a survey on, okay, and what kind of communication is going on among the people. If you try to divide that according to a particular text, okay, so you easily you can come out with a thinking, with a what kind of thinking is existing on this particular topic, okay, about that particular region of people. Okay, any kind of topic you may have. Okay, so how the people are thinking, this area of people, what are the mindset of the people. Okay, so easily you can analyze, you can give any topic to them, any economic issues. Okay, so if you ask them to post the comments, okay, so those comments you can categorize according to the words. Okay, then easily you can analyze what are the thinkings of the people there. Okay, so you everything can be analyzed with the text. So you just differentiate, okay, according to some specific words. So group that documents, okay, into your different clusters. So it will help you easily okay, understand what is the kind and nature of the analysis there. Okay, so you're defining, how do we define a cluster? Okay, so operational definition of cluster is that given a representation of n objects, okay, so we have n objects, okay, so find k groups that based on a measure of similarity. So you need to divide this n object, okay, into k groups. Okay, suppose if I am having 100 objects, okay, so I want to divide 100 objects. Okay, objects may be anything, it can be people, it can be your items or anything. Okay, so I want to divide those set of objects into groups. Okay, so that is how many groups? K groups. Okay, so this k can be any random number based on a measure of similarity. So whatever objects are falling in one particular group, say we want 3 groups, so first group we have certain set of objects, second group we have certain set of objects, third group we are having set of objects. So first group, whatever we set of objects we are going to have there, all those objects will be similar to each other. Okay, so like that second group, whatever objects we have, all the objects are similar to each other. Okay, like you take, we are dividing the t-shirts into small, okay, medium, small, medium and XL size. Okay, so they are having the similarity in terms of their size. Okay, so they may have differentiation in terms of colors and all, and different differentiation in terms of the brands and all, but the similarity exists. What is the similarity criteria here? As a size. Okay, so now this will easily help us to segregate the items. Okay, and easily, yeah, the customer can be asked to go to the respective counters. Okay, they want to have a choice of different types of t-shirts they want to purchase. Okay, so the size is immediately available, so that is the main criteria. After that they can go with a different choice of the color and all. Okay, so we have n objects and k groups, so we need to segregate this n objects into k groups. Okay, so notion of similarity can be interpreted in many ways. Okay, so that the similarity, like you see here, as a similarity is in terms of the size. Okay, so like that, what is the notion of similarity? Okay, what basis you divide the cluster? What is the criteria based on which you are going to divide the cluster? Okay, so here, that's how we are going to divide the cluster. That's the definition of your cluster. So cluster can differ in terms of their shape, size and density. Okay, so they can differ in shape. Okay, when we plot that on a graph, okay, they can occupy any kind of shape or size and density. So some cluster may have few items, some clusters you have lot more items and they are very close to each other, so they are lot dense. Okay, so clusters are patterns and there can be many kinds of patterns. You can take one cluster as one particular pattern, so like that you have many kinds of patterns there. Okay, so the presence of noise in the data makes the deduction of the cluster more difficult. Okay, so if you are going to have a noise in the data, then it becomes difficult to make the cluster or identify a cluster. So an ideal cluster can be defined as a set of points, so that is compact and isolated. Okay, so that means you have an object. Okay, so all of them are close to each other and isolated also, but all of them belonging to one particular cluster. Okay, so in reality, a cluster is subjective entity. Okay, so it is subjective, so that means it will have some value there whose significance and interpretations requires the domain knowledge. Okay, so that means what basis we have classified the cluster. Okay, so to interpret that, to interpret the knowledge of that, okay, you need to know what is the data in, okay, from which source the data is coming in, what is the kind of data it is, whether it is belonging to a banking domain or whether it is belonging to business sector and all. If you have perfect knowledge of the domain, only then you can have some interpretation of the respective clusters. Okay, so like here you have visual cluster example. You just plotted the points on the graph like this. Okay, so now here we can create the many clusters like this here. Okay, so now how we represent the cluster? Okay, so the cluster can be represented by a central or modal value. Okay, so cluster can be defined as a centroid of collection of points belonging to it. If we are going to have one particular cluster, in that we will always have a center point, that we are calling it as a centroid. Okay, a centroid is a measure of your central tendency. Okay, so that means it is like all the points, okay, are focused to the center. Okay, so whatever we measure, always we measure in terms of the distance from the center. Okay, so centroid is a measure of your central tendency. It is a point from where the sum total of a square distance from all points is minimum. Okay, so I'll just show you the next class to understand. Sum total of all the squared points distance from all the points is minimum. Okay, so now if you try to measure a distance from a center point to a particular object on the graph, okay, so you take a squared distance. Okay, so square distance, so distance is measured in terms of your, there are some measures like Euclidean distance, Mahalanobis distance and all that. Okay, so taking that distance, you take a square of that, okay, and then you take a total of all the points, okay, then that should be always a minimum. So that will be called as a centroid. Okay, a real life equivalent would be the city center as a point that is considered the most way to used by the constituency of the city. Okay, so we always have some kind of mall which are named as a city center. So that means it is always accessible by all the people in the city. So that is why the name normally we give it as a city center. You also have a city center in the near the Majestic in Bangalore. Okay, so earlier days, okay, so that was Bangalore was not so much expanded. So city center was a kind of mall which will be if you approximate, if you take a circle around that particular city center, so the distance from all the points would be approximately near to that particular mall. Okay, so that is why it is called as a city center. Okay, so all the cities are defined by the centers or downzone area. Okay, so that means always a centroid will be at the center point. Okay, and when you take a distance, okay, the sum of a distance from all the points, that would be always a minimum. Okay, a cluster can be represented by most frequently occurring value in the cluster. Okay, so you always represent that with a value which is most frequently occurring. That is, a cluster can be defined by its modal value. Okay, so here, like we said, one point is a cluster, that is a centroid, another point is modal value. Most frequently represented by most frequently value in the cluster. Okay, and that means you are actually taking the mean of the value. So cluster can be defined by modal value as mean value. So whichever is frequently occurring, okay, if you just take a mean of that, so that will be your actually a center point. Okay, indirectly it is a central point, so it is a mean value. So that we are calling it as a modal value. So thus a particular cluster representing a social point of view could be called as a social swarm. Okay, so social point of view, social swarm. So even though not all the members of that cluster need currently be a mom, but with saucer playing children. Okay, so it is some criteria you represent, so that was a centered point. Okay, so that we are calling it as a saucer swarm. Okay, now clustering techniques is nothing but, so this is, okay, a cluster analysis used in a machine learning technique. Okay, the quality of clustering results depends on algorithm what we use, okay, to find the cluster. What is the distance function we use, okay, to measure the distance from an object to the centroid, okay, and what application we are going to use. Okay, so first we consider the distance function. So most cluster analysis use a distance measure to calculate the closeness between the pair of points. Okay, so there are two main measures of distance, closeness between pair of items. Okay, so that means whenever you want to measure, suppose if a new instance you want to classify into a particular cluster, you measure the closeness of that distance from that new point to the other point or to the centroid point in one cluster, and same thing we also apply to the centroid point in the other cluster. Okay, so wherever it is found to be minimum, so you put a new item into that respective cluster. So there are two major measures of the distance. So Euclidean distance, okay, so as a row is the most normally used. Okay, so the other measure is Manhattan distance, so which is also always measures in terms of a orthogonal direction. So you can search and Google it. So actually Euclidean distance means you will have certain formula where okay, you will be measuring a distance measured from one point to the other point. So likewise all these are having certain formulas depending on the values whatever you plot in. Okay, so Euclidean distance is actually the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So why hypotenuse means, like if you are having a right angle triangle like this. Okay, so if you are having, okay, if you have a right angle triangle, okay, so this value, okay, so if I am having in this sense, so this may be representing the hypotenuse. Okay, and the hypotenuse, while the Manhattan distance is sum of two legs of the triangle. Okay, if you take the sum of the two legs of a triangle, okay, so this may be representing your Manhattan distance. Okay? So it is in either case the key objective of clustering examples is the same one. Okay? So here we always want inter-cluster distance to be minimized. Okay? So we want inter-cluster distance is maximized, okay? And intra-cluster distance is minimized. Okay? Inter-cluster means the distance between one cluster and the other cluster should be maximum. Okay? Intra-cluster distance is the distance between one object to the other object in the same cluster. So that is called as a intra-cluster. Okay? So inter-cluster is distance between the object from one cluster to the other cluster should be maximum, and intra-cluster means distance from one object to the other object in the same cluster, that is called as a intra-cluster. So there are many algorithms to produce the cluster. Okay? So there are top-down approaches, hierarchical methods that start with creating a given number of okay, of best fitting cluster. Okay? So okay, you start with some random number, like initially you assume some 3 cluster, 4 cluster. Okay, so you will be using top down hierarchical methods. So there are also bottom up methods that begin with identifying naturally occurring cluster. Okay, so you also have a bottom up approach, or you can also use a top down approach. Bottom up method that begin with identifying the naturally occurring cluster. So the most popular clustering algorithm is k-means algorithm. So it is a top-down statistical technique based on the method of minimizing the least squared distance from the center of point of the cluster. So this is k-means algorithm is most popular. It is top-down approach. So we use a statistical technique. Okay? So we use a method of least square distance from the center of point, minimizing. So you check that you take a, like in other methods maybe using Euclidean distance measure or Manhattan distance measure. Okay? But here it is using a least square distance measure. So this is also one of a distance metric which will also have a formula. So when you take this least square method, so you measure whenever you want to classify a new instance or an object into a cluster, you measure a distance from that particular object to the center. Okay? And same thing that will be done to the other one. So wherever it is minimum, so that new object will be classified to that one. Okay? So other techniques, okay, such as neural network is also used for applying the clustering. So k-means also can be used, neural networks also can be used to develop the cluster. Okay? So computing clustering algorithm is difficult task. So as you don't have a single right number of clusters, okay, how many okay, but we roughly, but these algorithms are working fine. So however, the speed of the algorithm and its versatility in terms of different data sets are important criteria. Okay, so what we exactly getting the 100% accuracy is I mean difficult to achieve. Okay, but the thing is, so still we are opting for k-means and other measures also. So with acceptable accuracy whatever we have. Okay? So but what kind of data we feed in, okay, what criteria we want, okay, the cluster is also very important for us. Okay? So now general pseudocode, okay, general algorithm for clustering is pick any arbitrary number of groups or segments to be graded. So that is, first you decide k, the number of clusters you want. Okay, now start with some initial randomly chosen center value for the groups. Okay, so you start with any center value for the groups. Now classify instances to the closest to the groups. Okay, now computing new values from the group center. Okay, now repeat step 3 and 4 till groups converge. Okay, so till you clearly segmented or categorize the groups. So if the clusters are not satisfactory, again go to the step 1 and pick a different number of your segments. Okay, so we'll understand this by seeing the graphs. Okay, now the cluster, I'll just show you in the next slide. We'll be coming up with a graph. The clustering exercise can be continued with a different number of clusters in different location of those points. Okay, now that means if you are not satisfied, again you start repeating the same process with a different number of groups, okay, and the different center points. Okay, now clusters are considered good if the cluster definition stabilize. Somewhere you need to stabilize, your clusters have to converge, otherwise you have to repeat the process. Okay, so with a different number of clusters. Okay, so like just take example here. Okay, So we have a x value, we have a y value. For this we want to categorize into different forms of your cluster. So x and y are two dimensions of interest. Okay, the object is determine the number of clusters and the center point of those clusters. Okay, when we plot a graph, scatter plot, okay, in this direction, so if we are having, okay, if a scatter plot is nothing but, okay, so we are plotting this, okay, this is a scatter plot. So this horizontal is x, okay, and this is y. Okay, now for x is 2 somewhere here, okay, so y may be 4 somewhere here. So this is a point representing on a cluster. So like that, when x is 2, y is 6 somewhere here we may get. Okay, so then x is 5, okay, y is 6 somewhere here you may get. So like that, this is called as a scatter plot. Okay, so scatter plot of 10 items in 2 dimensions shows them distributed fairly randomly. That means when you plot a scatter plot, so the distribution is very random. Okay, now for this we need to develop the cluster, a bottom up approach technique we can use. So now the number of clusters and the centroids can be initialized. Okay, initiated means initialized. Okay, so we need to initialize it. Okay, just take example like, okay, the same data points what we have seen in the previous diagram. Okay, so what we have seen previously here, okay, for this one, this graph. Okay, so now here we are plotting that. Okay, now you can see for 2, 4, 2, 6, okay, 4, 4, 4, 7, 5, 7. So we have just plotted all of them. Now initially when we take a central point, so this is a centroid point. Okay, so centroid point can be taken, like we said, it is a model value. So model value means you can take all the x values, okay, take a mean of that, take all the y values, take a mean of that. Okay, now when we take an average of x and y, when we plot on the graph, okay, so then we may be getting the centroid here. Okay, so here take a mean of all the x values. Okay, so take a mean of all the y values. Okay, so we plot the centroid, okay, taking a mean of x and mean of y. So that is called as a centroid. So first centroid, this is one centroid for all the data items we want. Okay, now next what we do, we want to, this is, you can consider this as one large group. Okay, now initially this is a state, now we want to change that. Okay, so that we further categorize them into the different groups. Okay, now the points are distributed randomly enough, that would be, you can take that to be as one cluster. Okay, now the solid circle in the center is the centroid point. Okay, now there is a big distance between 2, 6 and 8, 3. You can see here, okay, there is a big distance between the 2, 3 and 8, 3, 2, 6 and 8, 3. Okay, so if you are seeing here, okay, so you can see here 2, 6 and 8, 3. So there is a lot of distance between these two objects. Okay, now what was our focus, that if you am considering this as one particular cluster, the intra distance always should be minimum. Okay, intra distance represents the distance between the object within the same point. Okay, so this should be always minimum, but here there's lots of gap between this object and this object. Okay, so intra distance is not minimized in this case. Okay, so this data could be broken into two clusters. Okay, so what we do now, we started with bottom approach. Now we want to break that into two clusters. Okay, so now 3 points at the bottom right could form one cluster, and other 7 points could form the other cluster. So that means we are dividing that, okay, previous diagram into two cluster. So right side 3 points you get, left side you are getting the other points. So the two could be visualized in the next circle. Now when we divide into two cluster, we'll need to have two centroid points. Okay, now you can see here 3 points here will form one cluster, rest 7 points are forming the other cluster. So now again you have to compute according to this one model value. Okay, now new center, okay, you can take 5, 6 and 8, average out of that 2, 3 and 8, 3, average out of that, find the central centroid of this. Okay, so similarly here also you can take an average of all the x values, okay, and average of all the y values. Okay, so the average, mean, x value and y value, if you plot, that is the centroid of this particular cluster. Okay, so now we have divided into two cluster, and now you have calculated 2 more centroids. So the bigger cluster, okay, so seems too far apart. Okay, so when we are taking this previous cluster, okay, so if you see here, the bigger one, okay, So here there's a lots of distances. Intra distance is actually more here when we compare to this one. Okay, so what we can do, again further divide 2 into again 3. So this solution, so now you can have 3 clusters. So the cluster on the right is far from the other 2 cluster. So now what we do, again we need to find, when we divide into one more centroid will come. So our centroid is not too close to all the data points in the cluster upside. Okay, so now for that you need to again form a new cluster, so that is a third cluster is formed. Okay, so now you can see these points. Okay, so this one, again find a centroid by taking the average of x and y values, you get new centroid. Again you have a cluster here, a new cluster is formed, here also new cluster is formed. Okay, so now we'll see how the k-means algorithm will work. Okay, so k-means algorithm is most famous algorithm, which is normally called as a clustering algorithm. So k-mean is most popular clustering algorithm. So it iteratively computes the cluster and the centroids. Okay, so like continuously how we have seen previously, it starts constructing the clusters and the centroid. So this is top-down approach technique. Okay, so starting with given number of k clusters, say 3 cluster, so 3 main centroids will be created as starting points of the center of the 3 clusters. So the clusters are initial cluster centroids. Okay, so just as it's a top okay, so it is top down approach. So we start with k clusters. Okay, again come down again to the clear clusters. So we start with k clusters. So k clusters, for k clusters we need to find a suppose if here we are thinking to have 3 clusters, so we need to find 3 centroid points randomly we have done. Okay, so here is one centroid point, here is one centroid point, and here you can see another centroid point. So start with k cluster. So k cluster means that k groups. So for k groups you will have k centroids. So if I am taking 3 centroids, so 3 clusters. So for 3 clusters you need to have 3 centroid points. So here we are randomly picked up the 3 centroid points. One is here, another is here, and another is here. So now step 1, for a data point, distance value will be from each of the 3 centroids. Okay, so for a data point, distance value you are calculating will be from each of 3 centroids. The data point will be assigned to the cluster with the shortest distance. Okay, so now what we do initially, okay, now for each one, okay, each data point you calculate a distance. Okay, so okay, you can calculate a least square distance, or it may be Euclidean distance, or it will be Manhattan distance. Okay, so you take for each point, for each data point, this is one data point, you calculate the distance from this point to this. Okay, and calculate a distance of for this point from this to other centroid. Okay, and for this point from this to another centroid. So like that you do it for all the points. For this one, from here to this, okay, and from here to this one, and from here to this centroid point. Okay, so like this we will be repeating the process for all the data points, and then okay, so all the data points will thus be assigned to one data point or the other. Okay, now wherever the distance is minimum, so you try to divide that particular point to into that particular cluster, whichever is nearer to that centroid point, so that point belongs to that particular cluster. Okay, so the arrows for, like you can see in the next slide, so how we have divided, arrows from each data point element shows the centroid that point is assigned to. Okay, so just see here how we have done. Okay, now in this case 5 and 2, when we calculate the distance of this particular data point from this cluster to this cluster or other cluster, so this was close to this, so we put this point belonging to this cluster, so we've just shown an arrow. Likewise, when we take a distance of this one from this centroid and this one, so this was close to here, so we just put an arrow mark like this. So now we have divided one group, okay, one group and the other group. Okay, but when you see here, so this now after dividing into particular group, this centroid seems not to be in center of this group. Okay, so we have to revise the centroid. Okay, so revise the centroid at R. So step 2, the centroid for each cluster will now be recalculated so that it is closest to all the data points allocated to that cluster. So the dash centroid shows that how it has been moved from old to the new one. Okay, so just see here what we have done. Now here it is showing the old centroid point. Okay, now after revising it to the new centroid point, so new centroid point, so it is showing that there is a shift from this centroid point to this, because now we need to take a centroid so that this centroid point is always close to all the other points. Okay, so now here also this is moved from this one to this one, so now this to be close from all the other points. Okay, so likewise we have done, modified it from this thing. Okay, and then after that, once again data points are assigned to this thing. So now again all the arrow marks you convert it to to the new centroid point what we have calculated. Okay, so new centroid will be computed from the data points in the cluster until the centroid stabilize in the location. So these are the 3 clusters computed by this algorithm. Okay, now 3 clusters shown in 3 data point cluster with centroid 6.5 to 4.5. Okay, a 2 data point cluster with centroid 4.5, 3 and 5 data point cluster with centroid 3.5 to 5 we have obtained it. Okay, so that we can see it here. Okay, that was in the previous diagram only we have seen. So that is exactly the data point what we have got. Okay, so the 4.5. Okay, so these are the values. Okay, so these are the values of the cluster 6.5. Okay, and roughly what value, y value we are getting. So that centroid what we have obtained 6.5, 4.5. Okay, so 3 data point cluster, then 2 data point and 5 data point. Okay, so 2 data point. Okay, 3 data point. So 3 data point here, 3 data point cluster, 5 data point cluster and 2 data point cluster. So with the respective centroid values we have obtained. Okay, so 3 data point is the centroid value, 2 data point this one, 5 data point centroid value we have got. Okay, so these cluster definitions are different from the ones derived visually. Okay, so visually what we just put it, it's really different than that. So this is a function of random starting centroid values. So with many runs, the cluster if you are not satisfied with the 3 clusters what we have obtained, you can again repeat it with other centroid points and other cluster group. Okay, so after many runs we'll always get a stabilized cluster, so that we can easily which shows a similarity between the data points with the intra-cluster. Okay, and inter-cluster distances always maximize. Okay, the cluster definition do not stabilize, again you have to repeat the particular process. Okay, so if you are not satisfied, you have to recompute the center of the cluster till you are stabilized with that. Okay, now this is a pseudocode. Okay, so where algorithm came in. So choose k number of random data points as initial centroid, repeat till cluster center is stabilized, allocate each point in D to the nearest of k centroids. So compute centroid for the cluster using the data points. So how do we select the cluster? Okay, so correct cluster choice of value of k is often ambiguous. Okay, so it depends on the shape and scale of the distribution points, how data is there in the data set, and desired clustering resolution of the user, and what kind of cluster you want for what purpose. So heuristics are needed to pick the right numbers. Okay, you need to be very expertise is needed to pick up the right number of your clusters. So one can graph the percentage of variance explained by the cluster against the number of your cluster. Okay, so you can find out how it is varied, what is the percentage of variance explained by the cluster. Then seeing this graph, we are calling that as an elbow graph. Okay, so seeing that graph we can easily know where is the exact point of the cluster. So just look here. So we have, okay, so this is the number of clusters we have. Okay, so number of clusters on the horizontal axis. Okay, and this is a variance. So variance, okay, the size of the variance in a formula you all know that we are taking the square of that. Okay, so now when the number of clusters is 1 and 2, okay, so it's the variance is showing like that. Okay, so after that when you start increasing the number of clusters, okay, so suddenly there is a drop down. Okay, So from here, if you start increasing, so it is always growing. There is no change showing in. Okay, so here, so this is called as a elbow. Okay, so wherever we get this particular shape, so you need to stop that and consider that 3 clusters enough. Okay, so where you get a sharp point like this, so you have to stop to that. Okay, so this 3 clusters enough for you. Okay, so the first your first cluster will add more information, explain lot of variance, but some point at marginal gain in variance will fall, given a sharp angle to the graph looking like an elbow. So beyond the elbow point, adding more cluster will not have any incremental information. So there we need to stop. Okay. To engage with the data, to understand, okay, the cluster better, it is often better to start with small number of clusters like 2 or 3 depending upon the data sets and the application domain. Okay, so number can be increased subsequently as needed from the application point of view. So start with a simple number. So after that, if your need arises, you can increase it. So this helps understand the data and the cluster progressively better. Okay. So advantages of k-means and drawbacks of k-means. So there are many advantages of k-means algorithm. So k-means algorithm is simple one, easy to understand, easy to implement. Okay, it is also efficient in that time taken to cluster k-means rises linearly with the number of data points. Okay, so you always have a proportional increment. So the time, if you have large data set, so more time will be taken. So less data is there, less time will be taken to make the clusters. So no other clustering algorithm performs better than k-means in general. When you take comparison, so k-means is always giving the better performance. Okay, so there are drawbacks here is, okay, so user needs to specify the initial value of k. Okay, so the process of finding the cluster may not converge. Sometimes it will not converge. Okay, so keep on if you're going here, but you will not come to the stabilize of the cluster. So it is not suitable for discovering cluster shapes that are not, okay, hyperspheres. Okay, so like it is not suitable for according to the kind of shapes, okay, or hyperspheres. Okay, so neural network can also be deployed for clustering using the appropriate objective function. So instead of k-means, you can also use a neural network. So neural network will produce an appropriate cluster centroids and cluster population for each cluster. Okay, so we can conclude that, okay, so cluster analysis is useful unsupervised learning technique that is used in many business situations to segment the data into small groups, meaningful small groups. Okay, so whatever you try to cluster it, okay, you try to group it into that, so that each group will have some specific characteristics. So out of that, you should be capable of taking some decision. So k-means algorithm is an easy statistical technique to iteratively segment the data. Okay, so however, there is only one heuristic technique to select the right number of your cluster. Okay, so this okay, but right number of clusters selection is important. So after that, everything will be fine. So we'll stop it here. So this completes our